Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar with Dr. April Brown this morning. I'm Lucy Brown. I'm the Deputy Director of the Florence Nightingale Academy, and I'm absolutely delighted to be hosting this morning the webinar. Dr. April Brown is joining us. Just to make you all aware, we'll be recording this morning. We'll be sharing this across social media to make you aware. If you have any issues with that, please do let me know. If you've got any questions, we're taking questions at the end, which I'm sure you will, because April's got quite an incredible career to share with us shortly. You can either pop that in the chat box and I can ask on your behalf, or please just raise your hand and you can ask questions at the end. So just to introduce April, April's got over 30 years experience working in the NHS, had quite an incredible career. April was the first Black and ethnic minority chief nurse in the East of England. April also holds a doctorate in health research. And also a fellow Florence Nightingale scholar, so we're very proud to welcome you today. April's current post is the Improvement Director for NHS England and NHS Improvement, and also is a proud honorary commander to the US Air Force, a post in which she's held for 5 years. But not only that, April is the first female to hold this post, and also the first Black and ethnic minority individual to hold the post as well. So absolutely incredible accolade. So today's workshop and webinar is on April's fantastic career, how she's progressed through as a BAME nurse, but also to share her experiences and talk through the importance of white allies and how to rise and support others around you. So I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce Dr. April Brown. Over to you.
Oh, thank you very much for that, Lucy. Good morning, everyone. It's a real privilege to be invited by the Florence Nightingale Foundation to spend some time with you all this morning. And thank you. You know, heard from Natalie, dialing in on your day off when you could be under the duvet relaxing before your next shift. So I really do appreciate that. I'm going to just spend a little time sharing a little bit about my career so far, and I really want to hear from you. This is a time for a conversation this morning where fellow nurses, AHPs and midwives together, all working hard for the same reason. So be ready to ask questions, share your wisdom. You know, this is a reciprocal thing here. Okay, Adam. So Adam's I'm going to be Chris Whitty-like. And next slide, please. And probably the next one. Great, thank you. Oh. So just a little bit about me. So I guess more recently, I describe myself as a daughter of the Windrush generation. My own mum came over, not for nursing originally, came, as I've recently discovered, to work in Lions tea rooms in London. They were also short of staff and then found nursing. So I'm very proud to be a daughter of that generation. My mum worked for the health service in mental health as a nurse for over 40 years, and she and her colleagues were from Barbados, and that's where she is now. I'm an ordinary woman, proud mum. I'm a daughter, sister, auntie, but being a nurse was my main aim from being very, very small, from being 7 years old, and that really gave me an identity that others in the neighbourhood, wider people, could relate to. And if anyone asks me now, what do I do? If they ask me, I'm a nurse. That's my core foundation. And as Lucy said, I've been lucky enough to be a Florence Nightingale scholar twice over. Once for research whilst I was doing my doctorate, and to be honest, Florence Nightingale Foundation were the only organisation that really were interested in my research and said how important it was. It was about quality and matrons. If you Google, you'll find it. And then a scholar again for the Senior Leadership Programme, which I completed in 2017, which was really quite freeing and emancipatory, and to be able to travel and choose where I wanted to go to expand my horizons, but also to explore, had the opportunity to explore myself as well. You can at Cranfield University. So if you're teetering on the edge of should I apply for another scholarship, then just apply. There's a whole other world out there that the foundation opens up to you, which really does strengthen you as a clinical leader. Lucy and I have just been talking, and I'm a runner, so I run most places, been running this morning, and that, you know, we all have our thing, and you find your tribe, don't you, as you go through life, and running for me is my thinking time, sort out in my head what I'm going to do, how I'm going to tackle this, what do I need to think about, need to run a bit faster, but it is my kind of switch off time. I am ordinary. Yes, I've had a long career and having a long career, but people that know me know not to phone me at 7:30 and 8:30 on a Monday, Wednesday and Friday, because if anyone knows, that's when Coronation Street is on. That's huge fan, keeps me very grounded. And if you're a Corrie fan at the moment, you know, there's an awful lot happening, so very exciting. Now, when I started nursing, I'll share a little story. When I started nursing, which was 1989, if you do the maths, I'm 51, no one really had a degree. So I trained at the QE2 hospital in Welwyn Garden City. They've knocked it down, built a new one. No one had a degree. There was one nurse on nights. She had a diploma. But nursing wasn't degree entry then, and we came out with certificates. So I did fund myself to do my first degree, and I was doing that, and then I thought I couldn't actually find a master's I wanted to do. So I think because the University of Hertfordshire said I'd done quite a few policy jobs in Department of Health, so they let me go straight onto the doctoral programme. But I was, so getting to doctorate, I'll speak a little bit more about that, but this little story that I did share with my daughter the other day, about how the nursing profession didn't come near to academia at the time that I joined. So picture the scene, I was on the ward, we were all D grades then, all new staff nurses, and we'd heard that on the ward downstairs, there was a new nurse and she had a degree. Well, so we all went one by one downstairs to borrow a bandage, so we could have a look at this nurse, because she had a degree. I went down, had a look at her, came back, everyone said, "What did you think, April? What did you think?" Well, she's making a bed, but it doesn't look any better than mine. And that's just a kind of story of where we were. We didn't see, appreciate, understand how academia can really support care and all your interactions at the bedside. So that was quite a few years ago, and boy, haven't we come a long way since. I'm an improvement director in NHS England and NHS Improvement. Support trusts and systems that are going through rocky waters, that are under lots of scrutiny. So to summarise that, I am a critical friend. I can draw on extra resources, I add bandwidth, and I've got the privilege of working with colleagues in East Kent at the moment. And it's a funny quirk of careers, isn't it? So, you know, many years now, but I've just resigned, actually. I've done 5 happy years as honorary commander for the US Air Force. Some of you will know that because of the long relationship between the UK and the US, there are American service personnel who live and work and serve in the UK. The largest base in Europe is Lakenheath, which is in Suffolk. And it's an RAF base, but occupied with agreement by the US Air Force. That is self-sufficient to a large extent and has its own hospital. And it was through the Florence Nightingale Foundation that I came in contact with colleagues from the US Air Force. So I was asked by the foundation to do the lamp ceremony, the Florence Nightingale commemoration service each year. So that was a really proud moment in my career. And the US Air Force nurses were invited. They provided the Guard of Honour, and got talking to their commander, formed a relationship. We started to reciprocate and share best practice. And about a year later, I was asked to become the honorary commander for their hospital, which provides American colleagues a conduit into the health service to share, to learn together. And that was, you know, such a fantastic and unexpected opportunity. You know, who would have thought Coronation Street fan would end up being honorary commander of the US Air Force? You know, I was seen and had exposure to things that I never would have thought possible, you know, being photographed to fighter jets and hearing about, you know, the challenges of working in theatre, in war. So that was a really fantastic opportunity. So I spent 5 years doing that, and now it's time for someone else to experience that. But as Lucy said in her introduction, I was the first female honorary commander for Lagan Heath, and as you'd expect, the first black and minority honorary commander in that role. So that was a really proud moment. Next slide, please, Adam. So a few pictures. I'm just ordinary. So the first one on the left, that little girl's me. I'm probably about 2 or 3 there. And for those keen-eyed, you'll notice the 1970s rockery. Every garden had to have one. And the lady there is Nana. Nana was my foster mother who looked after me for over 20 years. My mum was nursing in London and Nana lived in Lincolnshire. So Nana fostered me for all of that time. And you can see now in the photo that, you know, wouldn't let Nana go. She was my world. Still miss her now. And then moving into the centre, another proud day. And we've all got one of these, I think. When you graduate or you finish, we didn't graduate, we had certificates in nursing. So that's the day we qualified as RGNs at the Lister Hospital in Stevenage. That photo was taken, it was twinned for education reasons at the time with the QE in Welwyn Garden City. Fantastic day. You never think you're going to get there, do you, after your 3 years and 3 months of education, but you do, and you move on. And the last photo is graduation day, University of Hertfordshire, with my doctorate. Why did I do one? Well, I couldn't really find a master's course that I wanted to do, one that really interested me. I started one and it lasted 2 weeks. I think it was a master's in health law at the University of Hertfordshire. I thought, no, it's not for me. It's not really what I want to do. If I'm going to do additional study, I'm going to have to enjoy it. Spoke to the tutors and the course directors, and then applied and was successful and got in for the doctorate in health research, which I did part-time whilst working full-time, like probably all of us have done, and mostly self-funded. Apart from when I came across the opportunity to apply for a Florence Nightingale research scholarship. And I did achieve the money that I requested, which was really brilliant. But more than just the money, it was the recognition from the foundation that actually my research was could be quite interesting, because the research was around matrons. I had been a matron, was fascinated how the role had returned, but it was linked to history. So linking the modern matron with the traditional matrons and the policy changes in the middle of that, and whether the new modern matrons had impacted on improving the quality of care at the bedside for patients. So like all doctorates, it's available online. You can Google it if you want to, and you've got a spare 3 weeks to read it. Yeah, so that was my graduation day, a very proud day. And if you've studied at the University of Hertfordshire and you graduate in the November, as I did, you don your gown and then you walk through St Albans city centre with your gown. It's so exciting. It's amazing. And somebody stopped me, because there were just 2 of us in that ceremony who were to receive our doctorates. Just a lady in the street, and she said, "Excuse me, why is your gown different to everyone else's?" I said, "I'm about to receive my doctorate." And that was quite impacting for me, because people only really asked me questions about, or looked at me strangely because I've got dark skin or look different, whatever different is. But to be asked about my gown and why and mine was different, I thought was, so I felt even more lifted that day. You can see I look a bit starstruck, actually. Anyway, next slide, please, Adam. Many years ago, can't even remember what role I was doing, but in a trust I was working in, it was the Lister in Stevenage, and they had an interim director of nursing, very experienced, Heather Cawthorne, her name was. And for some reason, I ended up in her office having a conversation, not for anything that I'd done wrong, but she was, very affable, open door policy. And I was speaking to her about what I wanted to do with my career and trying to glean her advice. And she said to me, "You're a tall poppy, April." I'd never heard of that before. And she said, you really, you're on your way, you've got your degree, you want to do other things. And she obviously saw something in me that, I hadn't seen in myself. Which is good, isn't it, to be a tall poppy? But there is always the risk that if you're a tall poppy, there may be someone around the corner that's ready to cut you down. Just move away from those people. If they want to do that, that's about them, and it's wasted energy. You keep on growing, keep on rising. Next slide, Adam. So the title of this session is First and Onlys, and there's quite a lot of firsts in my career, and you'll have some firsts as well. Maybe the first nurse consultant, the first consultant midwife, the first nurse to set up a particular service in the patient or client group that you care for. And mine go, well, right back really. I was, if you think about onlys, I was the only Black person in my town growing up in the middle of Lincolnshire, in the Fens, not surprising really. At that time, I was the first female Black prefect in my secondary school. Really wanted to be a prefect. You not only got a different tie and a badge, but you got to the front of the lunch queue and you could sit on chairs in assembly. But my foster mother, Nana, who you remember in one of the pictures, she got stopped in town by some angry mums that said, why is April a prefect when my daughter isn't a prefect? It's just not fair. She's Black and she shouldn't be a prefect. So there was, some tensions. I was quite happy there. I was at the front of the lunch queue. I've spoken about my time at Lakenheath, and I don't have a military background. It was about the nursing and the sharing best practice and the commonalities, but it was a great opportunity and insight into their world and how our nursing colleagues in the Air Force run being a nurse or a surgeon alongside being military personnel and being able to handle themselves in all the situations that they found themselves in. And the first Black chief nurse in the east of England, and that's quite recent. So I had the opportunity to be, well, let's rewind a little bit. I was the improvement director working in support of the QE hospital in King's Lynn. Their chief nurse resigned. She was moving closer to home in Manchester, and so that left a gap. So I was asked by the chief executive to step in as their chief nurse on secondment for 8-9 months, which I did. So that was from August last year to March this year, through the second wave. So 8-9 months, I probably had 16 months experience in that short period of time, as did we all. But yes, I'm very proud to be the first Black chief nurse. Someone's got to do it. Be proud of all of your firsts and own them, and really occupy that space. No one else can be that first. If you're the first, that's it. It's not really worth reporting being the second, is it? But the first, own them. And for some of my career, I was at Chase Farm Hospital, which I really enjoyed. Chase Farm. Slightly different client group now as things take shape and they're part of the Royal Free Group. But I was the first Black sister, and very proud moment, as we all remember, going into the linen room or collecting your royal blue uniform or whatever denotes sister or team leader where you work, and to emerge slightly different status. But I guess the conversation around that for me was acknowledgement from other Black and minority ethnic nurses at the hospital at the time, opening doors for them that it was possible. And, you know, if I can do that, then anyone else can, but supporting other people along the way. So of all of the firsts, it is about door opening for others. And if you are the first, keeping that door open and helping others through it. That's really important. And in my family, the first graduate, yeah, I'm the only one with a doctoral degree. I'm still April though. I'm still that sister, mother, daughter. I am just an ordinary woman. I've just put the washing in the tumble dryer. So I say that because I used to sit in sessions in university, and people would speak about their PhDs and their doctorates, and I would look at them and wonder, think, oh, my goodness, I could never do that, and how have they done that? And they are amazing. But yes, you've done yet another degree, and it's about your focus at the time. So you may not have done a doctorate or a degree, but there's other things that you've delivered and achieved either within or without the healthcare professions. So there's times in your career where you're the only. In my career, I think about being the only from what's the only lens I have, isn't it? Of being a Black and minority ethnic person, maybe the only Black face on screen for Teams meetings, the only Black person in a room. And I guess you could look at that negatively and say, oh, that must be terrible, or own it. You're the only, so you stand out. So own that, embrace it, and that's fine. But I will say sometimes when you're feeling a little bit vulnerable, it can feel a bit strange, and you know, you feel a bit vulnerable perhaps. But I think in the main thing is to own it, occupy that space, embrace it. And whether you're seeing the world through a Black and minority ethnic lens, or perhaps, you know, you have a disability, you're the only person with a disability in the room, or you're the only person with who uses sign language, or you're the only female, own it. Can't change it. So my advice would be to own that space. I think our careers are great vehicles, aren't they, for moving on through the profession and keeping on rising. And whilst I've had a long career and a few more years yet, I hope, my advice would be to be really proud. Be proud of everything you do, and be proud of your mistakes and failures. That's where we learn. That's the most learning you will ever receive, and you'll be able to support others from that experiential learning. And, you know, I have had wobbly moments. Who hasn't? Where you think, oh, maybe I didn't do that as well, or I didn't get that job. But, you know, make sure that you hold on to your family members or trusted colleague and friend. They are vital, and they'll keep you steady. And we know, don't we, in the last 18 months, how tough that's been. You have to keep focusing on the positive. And, you know, there's some realism in that as well. And do make sure you own all of your successes. I think we're maybe not as great as we can be at all of that. I was speaking to a midwifery sister the other day in Kent, and her ward was busy. Every room was full, had a woman in every room. And I said to her, oh gosh, well done, it is really calm here. And she said, oh, well, you know, it's nothing. I said, no, that's down to your leadership and your style of leadership. It's calm and it's safe. So that is a success, and we need to own them. All of us cut the first turf, and you've seen from some of my firsts, we do that. But I think coupled with that, we have a responsibility to bring others along as well, and to help other people who are new to the profession or new to an experience, and helping them to navigate through so they can be even more successful than we are. And I guess lastly, really take pride in what we have given to the profession. But as you can see from my career, the profession has given me an awful lot. Some unexpected things. I wouldn't have expected to even get my first degree, to be linked with the US Air Force, to, you know, have enjoyed some of the roles I've had. But in doing so, make sure that you keep that door open and support other people who are also rising and would benefit from your support and your wisdom. So this really resonates with me, and you pick up different things as we travel through life, don't you? Pick up different phrases. And I consciously return to this. We all become adjacent to people sometimes who, you know, if you want to apply for a course, or if you want to apply for Florence Nightingale scholarship, and they're, what do you want to do that for? What do you want to do that? Oh, you'll never get on. It's really tough. Move yourself away from those people. You don't need that. You need people that are going to nurture you and support you, and to keep your flame, you know, shining really brightly. So my advice would be to move yourself away. If they're being negative, that says a lot about them and less about you. So you might be thinking, how do I help others to rise? You know, it's struggle enough getting through the last 18 months. How do I support others in and around my team, other allied health professionals who are moving through their career? And I guess it's creating time to listen to others. And I guess when I was chief nurse at Kingsley, and I found that I was pleased but privileged that I had quite a few Black minority ethnic staff coming to speak with me about their challenges, what they were intending to do with their careers, and just supporting and influencing them enables others to rise. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but it's about instilling confidence, sharing some of your mistakes and vulnerabilities, and helping others to navigate through. And being that safe space for people to speak freely and saying, this is a safe space for you, so that people can download and reflect and hopefully feel a little bit renewed for the next challenge in their day. I guess the key thing is supporting others, and we've done that significantly more so in the past 18 months, but spending time with others, supporting people with job applications, simple things like mock interviews. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but it's how you share some of your knowledge to make sure that others can also continue to achieve and continue to rise. So we speak about networking, don't we? But I wonder whether people really maximise their networks as much as they should. And the Florence Nightingale Foundation is a great place to do that. If you've been privileged enough to be on one of the programmes, you'll build different networks. But networking is so important. It is about surrounding yourself with good people, not always like-minded people, because it's people that have a slightly different mindset and a different view on the world that can help challenge you. And networking, particularly if you're thinking about continuing to rise through your career, particularly once you get to, I'm talking in Gender for Change language now, but once you get to 8A grade or matron role and beyond, it is about the networks and letting people know in your network that you're thinking of your next role. What do they know? What do they know about this organisation? It's the networks that support you to get to where you need to be. And never be afraid of seeking out people and connecting. They'll be very flattered. Perhaps you'd really like to work shadow somebody for a day, and that is entirely possible once we're off Zoom and Teams. But we're not always in front of those screens quite so much anymore. But do that, it costs nothing. And you probably learn more in that one day than you would from reading a whole book about how people lead, how they stay resilient, how they manage their time. In that way, you will naturally be at the forefront of colleagues' minds and think, actually, I've got a job. And I know it was Natalie that came to work shadowing. I wonder whether she would like to consider applying. That's how it works. It does change when you move from senior sister or senior charge nurse role to matron role and beyond. And that's another good route to ensuring that you continue to rise. So you've all heard enough from me, and I'm really eager to hear from you, because as nurses, midwives, health visitors and AHPs, we learn from each other. That's our strength. So over to you.
Good morning, for those who've joined us that I didn't get the opportunity to say hello to. So if any of you have any questions, if you don't feel comfortable kind of asking verbally, you can pop it in the chat box and I can ask on your behalf. Oh, Paulette, lovely. Over to you.
So it's not necessarily a question, it's really just a comment to Dr. Brown and yourself. I was a little bit, is it Dr. Brown, am I mixing the names up? But I haven't. You're both.
Yeah, April.
I know, sorry. I'm not a doctor.
So I stick to first name, April and Lucy then. So apart from the office, there were so many similarities that I noticed when April was talking. I mean, I too trained at University of Hertfordshire in Hatfield. I am also a Curry fan. I won't mention sinkholes at work. Proud mom, daughter. But I wanted to find out as well, you know, we sometimes know where we want to go, but sometimes we need a little bit of guidance to get there. So I wondered whether, you know, April, you had a mentor, someone that kind of showed you a path, got you through a path.
No, it's a really good question, Paulette. Yes, I've had various mentors throughout my career and coaches. So slightly different relationship, isn't it, between mentors and coaches? And they've been either formal mentors or informal people that I've gone back to that have guided me, just that safe place where I can say, what do you think about this? Should I apply? You know, just inquire about how they got to where they got to, and then think, do I want to do that? Generally, they've been women, and when I look back, often 10 years older than me. Don't know why that is. So when I worked in the Department of Health, one colleague that I worked closely with, Professor Anna Maslin, I'm saying she's 10 years older than me, but she inspired me to go on and do my doctoral study. So there's different touch points along the way. I don't have a mentor now, but whilst I was I think I've had a coach on 2 or 3 occasions. I don't always have a coach, Paulette, but there's certain roles, or if there's been a big change in role and I'm feeling that I want to go and explore some things about how I can respond and optimise myself in a new role, then I'll access a coach. So whilst I was chief nurse in King's Lynn, I did recognise that I am going to need a coach. We're in the middle of the worst pandemic ever. So went back to a coach that I knew, which was really helpful and just helped me to get through some tricky times and to create safe boundaries. So mentors and coaches have been essential.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. And interestingly, actually, Paulette, that's a really good question. We'll be launching a mentorship network in January through the Florence Nightingale Foundation for alumni members. So watch this space, it'll be on our newsletter, so we'll be in touch.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much.
And it's helped me enormously through my career. April's had a phenomenal career, but mentors have been right through my career, right from when I first qualified. I've had somebody, a critical friend to keep you on track, and it's essential, I would say.
It's quite useful. It's quite useful.
Absolutely.
I think because I know someone's hand was up. Just to mention, I just recently started a new post, so it's almost like you get in post and you say, "Whoa, where do I start?" Yeah. There's so much to do. There's so much people to talk to.
Yes.
People you talk to, the more people you get referred to talk to, and find that you're in a minefield where, you want the support, but then you get a little bit overwhelmed and you pause.
And that exactly that, Paulette. It's been new posts and tricky times where I've sought the advice of a mentor. And one of my mentors actually was Lord Hunt of King's Heath, Philip Hunt, and our paths converged when I was working at the National Patient Safety Agency. I was assistant director there and he was the chair. I don't know how we got talking. Anyway, we did, and he ended up being my mentor, and he was helping me to rise and I reflect, opening doors for me, allowing me to gain access to other people in his world. He used to invite me to meetings in the Lords, the House of Lords tea room, and see all these faces around thinking, oh, Betty Booverwood over there. Oh my goodness. That was quite helpful then, because my research had a political element to it. around some of the political decision making for matrons, but he definitely showed me the way. So yeah, really grateful for that. Very generous with his time.
Well, I think you just need to unmute. That's it. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, it's me. Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I didn't know that was. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, April, for your talk. Really, really helpful. You've talked a lot about people helping you, mentors, people supporting you on your way up, which is really wonderful. I think everyone here can identify themselves with that, which is really amazing. I was just wondering if you're happy and if you're comfortable to share one or two challenges you've had in terms of progress to the next step. You come to a point where really you kind of wanted to go to this step and you just couldn't. If you're comfortable generally, or just and what did you do about it? How did you manage to push boundaries or just get to the next step when there was quite a lot of hindrance?
That's a really interesting question. And I'm not sure that I have been truly hindered. I'm not sure that I have been. I don't know what. Well, you don't know what it would have been like living someone else's life, but I'm not sure that I have been hindered. I'm quite certain that where I wanted to go and apply, I haven't got every job. I've gone and got, and I thought, actually, that's good. Maybe I didn't want to work there anyway, in that environment. So maybe I've chosen carefully and done all the work beforehand. And I guess if I just reflect on my time as chief nurse, then, so I'm 51 now, so I was 50 when I went into that role. And you'll probably know that quite a few Black minority ethnic chief nurses, and there's about 15 now in England. Most of us, when I reflect, are coming towards the end of their careers because it's taken a while for some of the doors to open. Now we know that our chief nurse, Ruth May, has been very steadfast in making sure that the doors have been opened and the diversity agenda and senior nurses have been successful at gaining chief nurse roles. But and I guess I was late coming to that party, being a chief nurse. That was me doing that. So I had applied for one other chief nurse role, didn't get it, and that was fine. But the doctorate, so I purposefully did the doctorate, so that took 7 years. So perhaps I'm 7 years behind others, who knows? So I'm not sure that I have been hindered. And there was one job though, actually, where I did think, I'm not quite sure what happened there. And I did go back and speak to the lead panellist on the selection panel, the interview panel, because I wanted to understand why I didn't get the job, because it just felt a little bit odd. And so I did go back and have a conversation with them. I still didn't get the job. That was fine, but I did feel it was important to just to understand a little bit more, and for them to know that I wasn't content, perhaps, with some of the selection processes. Does that answer your question? Sorry, that was a little bit rambling.
Well, it does address some issues. I think, guess there about selecting carefully, but also sometimes you do not know some opportunities unless you've taken them. I'm just telling you because I'm coming from the academic side.
Yeah.
In academia, you really have to have to, you will know that this is where I need to go the next step. Different from leadership, because in leadership, then there's only one post that will be, you cannot be 20 leaders for 20 people. So, so it's slightly different. And sometimes with colleagues and other people, you'll find people stay in some place for many years, and you ask them to, why don't you try to move forward? And then they tell you of experiences that they've tried, and then they, in the end, they get disheartened. I don't want to apply, I don't want to advance, because really just don't have any more energy mentally and physically. And there's examples of that. And it's just a way of thinking, what can we do to help colleagues, but also to really support colleagues, and to show people that it is possible if there are some different ways that perhaps one of the things, for example, getting mentors and people who can help open doors. I've had that for 20 years. People, everything I've done is just people really working with people. I usually say, well, it was right time, right place, right person. But actually, I think opening that network, perhaps that does help to make that probability happen, perhaps.
Yes. And to take, people, colleagues, to help them rise into the next arena. So the work shadowing could be quite a good idea. You've taken that person in, shown them a new arena of people, you've introduced them, so they're not a new name or a new face, so that when they apply for a role or an opportunity, they're already known. I always offer mock interviews for people, because there's often learning that we can share, just to make sure people are absolutely ready. But I do understand it can be tiring. You have to kind of gather your energy, particularly if you've had some miserable experiences in the past. But it's necessary, isn't it, to continue? You've got the qualifications, you've got the experience and the knowledge. Why not you?
So thank you so much.
April. I think the key point for me as well is just to add, feedback is so vital as well. I think April touched on that. Be really bold and ask for feedback. How did I do? What could I do better? And that's what I've done throughout my career, and it's really helped shape me and improve. And I always think feedback is a gift. Don't see it as a negative or bad comments. Take it to learn and improve and get the most from it. But great, thanks, April. Really great response. Any other questions from anybody else? I've got a couple actually, if that's okay, April. Is that okay? What advice would you give? So we're really focusing on nurses in their early careers and really trying to inspire them to take that next step. What advice would you give those nurses in that position, just newly qualified?
Oh, well, the newly qualified nurses are in a far stronger position than I ever was when I qualified. You've already got your degree, maybe even in masters. We had certificates. So you've got a better vehicle for which to move forward. But I think it's still having that grounding experience, isn't it? Making sure that you get yourself to the front of the queue for all the courses that you need, that you put yourself out there for the experiences, that you get the support and the mentorship. But take time to reflect as well on your practice, I think. And before applying for posts, have that conversation with whoever's going to be on the selection panel, who's going to lead that one. Even if the job's internal, it feels a bit odd sometimes going for jobs internally, but you still need to do the same amount of preparation as you would if you were an external candidate. But sound out other senior colleagues and see what they think, and do your research about the next role and what you might need to make sure that you're in the strongest position possible to be successful. But don't hold back. Don't hold back, and don't be dissuaded by others that say, oh, well, I've been here 20 years. Oh, that's fine. And someone's been here 2 weeks and someone else has been here 30 years. But everyone is contributing, no matter how long they've been there. It's not a longevity contest. Everyone contributes. So I would apply, but do the preparation to ensure success.
Fantastic, thanks, April, really wise words. And just finally, I speak to a lot of nurse leaders, and through this role, and I actually have suffered with this quite crippling imposter syndrome through my career. What advice would you give to me and others? How do we manage that? How do we tackle that?
Oh, shall I share with you my imposter syndrome?
Yes, please do.
Well, we all have them, don't we? But I think one of the funniest was when I was interim international officer for nursing midwifery for England. So it's the older structure. So I was sitting in Richmond House in the Department of Health. Sarah Mullally was the chief nurse then for England, and she was my boss, now Bishop of London. And I was there, it was 6 p.m. I was in one of the offices, and Big Ben rang out, and one of the ministers walked past my office door, and I laughed to myself. I thought, what am I doing here? This is ridiculous. I don't think I should be here. I guess not all you can do is acknowledge it and carry on. And whichever arena you're in, I don't think there's one person that's not had imposter syndrome, but I think that's okay. I think it's okay because it is a bit of a reality check, and you check yourself. I guess if you're not having imposter syndrome, there might be another conversation there, but it is just probably the newness of the role, the reality of the role, and I think it's about keeping yourself grounded, but don't let the imposter syndrome own you. It should be a fleeting experience, and then you move on.
Fantastic advice. Fantastic. Thank you, April. Any other questions from anyone before we finish up today? No. Well, an enormous thank you, April. God, I feel so inspired over the last hour. It's been wonderful to meet with you and for you to share your amazing career with us all. I think my big takeaway would be keep on growing and keep on rising and be proud. I think that's why I've been writing notes I've been going through this morning. So thank you so much. And thank you for all of us that joined us this morning. As I said, we've recorded the session. So if you want to share this with your colleagues, please do. It'll be on YouTube in a few days once we've had a chance to edit it. So thank you all. Enjoy your respective Fridays, and take care.
Take care, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you all.